So I was living in an apartment in the Mission District. And I was, at that time, 10 years ago, spending $13.50 for a one-bedroom apartment, which then felt like a ridiculous amount. I had this bamboo garden. I spent a lot of my time down there. And looking at all these other backyards that were just empty, and I was like, all I need is a little hut in the corner of this garden, and like, I'm good. We got it. Luckily, I had a good friend who had this place here in the Excelsior, and I brought some of my bamboo with me. Okay. So the bamboo garden from yesteryear is now still living on over here, and it's an absolute jungle back there right now. My friend has a very small backyard, but he was willing to roll the dice on having me build a little tiny home in his backyard. I brought over my bamboo garden first. I built the whole structure in modular wall sections and then put it all up in a single day, and $1,500 in materials. So this is the Cabana.
So $1,500 for a house in San Francisco.
Yep. And I pay $400 a month for rent for use of the kitchen and bathroom and Wi-Fi. I love cabins. We had cabins on the lake in the summer, and my grandfather had a sap camp cabin that I used to love to hang out in, and I spent a lot of my time as a kid just building forts, and basically I'm in a more sophisticated fashion just returning to that passion in a way. It's 80 square feet. It's like I could have done 100, but I did 80. I just went that much further just because actually I think that's all I need. I said this to my parents once, because actually my brother lives in a 15 by 20 A-frame cabin. At one point my parents were like, oh, like we should help him build on or add to this, and I just told them, I was like, no, don't do that, and I was like, I know this is hard for you guys to understand, but Joel and I feel more comfortable in his space than we do in your, large middle-class home. For me, part of this project was, how much do I actually need? And so that was the experiment that was run here, was just like carving out a space of like, what do I actually need? And how do I do that in a way that's not sacrificing aesthetics, actually improving aesthetics for me? Because in my old apartment building, I just had one big window that looked out at another apartment building. Here, I have two big windows that just look out onto like green bamboo and ivy. Bamboo leaves, they kind of start coming out of your ears after a while. With a little bit of colander dapple light coming in. That's a win for me, in terms of what I did have.
It's so calm back here. It feels like a cabin in the woods.
It's my compromise with the two parts of myself, nature and urbanite.
So the backyard is right.
Yeah, so this backyard is like 13 feet by 26 feet, and I built an 8 by 10 structure that kind of sits roughly in the middle of it, and then there's just a little pathway between the house and my structure, so it was a very small space. I didn't want to block this window. Ideally, I kind of wanted to put it all the way in the corner so that the expansive windows were on two adjacent walls. But that kind of wasn't going to work in terms of blocking my pal's master bedroom view into the backyard. So I redesigned the layout to be just two opposing windows so you can see all the way through. So yeah, this made the most sense in terms of placement.
Because now you've pretty much just given him a bush.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, there's like a big bush here now. Because the vine is totally just about taken over the roof.
I'm assuming people come and don't even know he has a house in his backyard.
No, yeah, it would have only been this one neighbor that would have had a complaint. And, I'm a little guy over here that meditates, so who's going to have a problem with your neighbor meditating quietly? I don't know. They didn't. It's pretty stealth. That was part of my wanting to be politically prudent and making the choice to live in the legal gray area. In San Francisco, you can build something that's under 100 square feet without a permit. Technically, it's not supposed to be a living space, so this is a home office that I sometimes rest in.
So it was quite simple to do? You said you put it up in a day, but you'd already done a lot of work beforehand.
3 weeks of work.
Okay.
put it all up in a single day, and $1,500 in materials.
Prefab, I guess, in your own way.
Yeah,
Right?
it was my own prefab design. I mean, it's very simple, stick frame construction, 2x4 walls, but I built it in modular 4-foot sections. So this is a section, this is a section, this is a section, above the windows a section over there. So I basically, prefabbed the plywood and the framing, and then just carried in all these wall sections, stood them up, both of them together, and then popped the windows and the doors in.
Did you think about how much space you needed? I mean, did you think, okay, this is how tall I am, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, okay, the project was, what do I actually use on a daily basis? I whittled my books down a little bit, clothes, printer, and some files. Well, I've moved all the clothes,
Okay.
but that's where they used to be.
Okay.
So yeah, there was a closet rod there.
How many years have you lived here?
9 years. I lived here 9 years and then I left last May. Yep, empty
Oh,
there.
So you had 2 closets, that's not bad.
Yeah, 2 closets, and then I just had one of these eco heaters, one of these electric ceramic panels, $80. 400-watt heater is more than enough to heat the space. Part of my design philosophy has just been, just enclose what you actually need to heat, And if you have a lot of windows, then it feels open, it doesn't feel like cramped or anything like that. These are just salvaged sliding glass doors, double paned. This was a steal of a deal reject door at the hardware store, and then all the interior paneling is all remilled 2x4s that I milled myself, and rock wool insulation in the walls, and rigid polyiso insulation in the ceiling. Corrugated metal roof, very basic.
What did you make of the bed out of?
It's basically like 2 smaller frames, and it's split in half, so like if I do have company, I can basically like take the sheet off, push it back over there, and then there's kind of like 2 lounge chairs. And then it also makes it easier to move it out of here when I want to bring in a full bed, if I want to sleep 2 in here.
But you bought those pieces.
Oh, I made these.
You made those?
Yeah, I made everything in here except that chair. I'm a big fan of wood, but then it's my skill set. And this project too is also a beginning of a bit of my signature style, which is like rustic modern. So you get wood, but you've got all of these edges that leave the saw marks. You've got the edge of this window here where it's like all uneven. I sometimes call it cabinet maker's revenge. For those who are like just seeking, absolute opulent perfection. And I'm just like, that does not exist. Stop trying. So, there's all of the 2x4s are resawed and just left the saw marks as well. So yeah, this was very, simply done. 4 pier blocks from Home Depot, a little gravel under each of them. So this concrete block with some gravel under it, and then just some 2x8 pressure treated around the perimeter, 2x8 joists, 3/4 plywood floor, plywood and 2x4 walls, 2x6 shed roof, corrugated metal shed roof. That's enough.
So it's not going to leak.
No, I mean, there are many homes that are made out of this stuff. It's a 50-year roof. For $1 a square foot, it's a 50-year roof. And it's totally recyclable metal that just goes back to the scrapyard and gets melted down. There's no chemicals or anything in it. It gives you better rainwater catchment because it keeps the water cleaner. So in my opinion, this is a kind of the no-brainer starter kit of how to protect yourself from the rain.
The painting choice,
I basically took one of the bamboo leaves and I brought it in and had them match the paint to that, and then just painted it that color. When I started my company, I spent 2 months and I just built 2 structures out of scrap wood. Craftsman RVs, as I'm calling them. They were 4x10. So like I built them so that they were still small enough that you could like put them on casters and wheel them around. Part of me starting my own business was about like, I want to do what I can to try to provide this to other people. Even though it's like this legal gray area, there's such a huge demand for affordable housing. I've built 3 backyard studios for people in the city. It's an easy solution, and it's just about detached bedroom. Can you have a detached bedroom? That's the zoning amendment we're looking at here. And this is like the lowest of the lowest hanging fruit you could possibly do in terms of providing that. $1,500 in materials, 3 weeks of my time, or $200,000 for an ADU, which is what the city is proposing people can do. So you can do that, but who are you making it accessible to? Accessory dwelling units are the whole kit and caboodle, small kitchen, bath, minimum $200,000 project. And a detached bedroom is a minimum $10,000 project. For some people, it might be just fine. You know, with my friend, like, he's one guy living in this small 2-bedroom house, so he's fine with sharing a bathroom and a kitchen. And, you know, we're good friends, it's worked out. So yeah, just living room, kitchen,
Okay.
bathroom up there.
So you kind of share, you could bump into each other, I mean, you share.
Yeah. For me, it's a little bit of best of both worlds of like, you are living with somebody, but you do have a totally separate space so that, you know, when you want that privacy, you can have it.
Because, wow, you can really see here, you don't see, it's pretty much bushes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
It's pretty much just all bushes, and that, you know, and that vine is just, it's eating my little house alive.
I mean, I think that's actually a key part of it. You did all the bamboo and you really covered it, because otherwise you kind of have a shed that you have in your kitchen, and the neighbors can...
I mean, I wanted that aesthetically for the space, but it's more of an asset to this place and the other neighbors. Yeah.
So you have a garden as well.
Yeah. It's pretty low maintenance setup. Like, I just put it on an irrigation system. So I don't care for it particularly well, but it gets along all right. I mean, I haven't even been here since May of last year. So. I get to sit on the floor here every morning and just stare at the green for, it used to be only an hour when I had a day job, and then 4 years ago when I started my own business, I got to up the ante there and have had a lot more free time to relax and think about what is really a valuable choice with my time and energy. So that's been an ongoing experiment.
So even having a fairly busy road here, being close to it, doesn't affect the fact, I mean, this is very quiet, right?
Yeah, relatively speaking, yeah. I mean, you can, you know, the highway kind of sounds like the ocean in the background a little bit, you know. And certainly there's, you know, rush hour periods that, you know, you can hear a little bit of the traffic. But if you close the door, it's, as you can see, it's pretty calm. I still feel like I'm just living in the forest. I'm just living in a jungle, even though, like, I'm well protected.
At the same time, it's visibly not the sort of kits you can buy at a big hardware store.
Yeah.
It's a shelter. It's not a shed.
Yeah.
Right?
That's just, I can't help myself use the skill set that I've developed type of thing, you know? And also, I have a certain aesthetic affinity that I'm going for, you know? That is basically saying beauty doesn't have to cost a lot. Even my change jar I made myself. It's mahogany. You know, really simple choices in materials and a knowledge of the different choices you can make in terms of available materials and their cost ratio analysis. You know, like you can have a very beautiful space for very little money. And so that was the experiment that was run here. Yeah, it was a successful experiment for sure. So I'm just one of the people that managed to not slip through the cracks by, you know, throwing a little web across the crack and like hanging on. And, you know, kindness of my friend who owned the place. Lowest of the low hanging fruit, San Francisco.